So another big problem that I have with cybersecurity, I think that we all have with cybersecurity, is risk management, or rather, what we call risk management. And this somewhat relates to security being a quality function and us not addressing it as such. I like to use the analogy of basically the plane manufacturer. So imagine you are a company like Airbus, and you manufacture a new aircraft, and you make a couple hundred of these planes. And after 2 years, someone from an airline, an aviation technician at British Airways, contacts you and says, "Hey, we've noticed that the bolts that hold the wings on come loose during flight. And that could lead to a serious problem, such as the wings shearing off." And so, oh dear, well, we have to do something about that. We have to, this is a danger, this is a risk, we have to risk manage. So what we'll do is we'll implement a new department, and this department will build workshops in every single airport that the aircraft flies out of, and we will equip it with all the necessary tools and technologies to check, detect, respond to bolts loosening. And we'll staff it with all these highly skilled, fairly expensive technicians to operate these things. And after every single flight, we will take the aircraft and put them in this place for an hour or so, where they will, monitor, check, detect, and respond to any loose bolts, and tighten them back up to reduce the likelihood of something bad happening over the next flight. Risk management, fantastic. But that, of course, is an incredibly stupid and inefficient way of doing it. And it's a way that nobody else does it. It's, the aviation industry doesn't do it that way. They would assess, well, why is the bolt backing out? What is wrong with this fastener? Let's assess it. Let's design a better fastener. And let's start using that in the production process on the assembly line in the factory. And let's retrofit all the aircraft in the field so that this problem is gone. There's nothing left to risk manage. Plus, we've learned a thing or two about risk management, or rather, about fasteners, so we're less likely to repeat this issue in the future. And if you look at the aviation industry's kind of incident over time curve, it's this downward trend with a very, very low residual. And it's the same trend for automotive, manufacturing, shipping, oil and gas, any mature industry, really. And they do have some level of operational risk management the way we do it, but it's a very small amount. And it's the last resort. Everything else is done by addressing issues at source. And they also have models in place where when they do something operationally, they're actually aware of the cost. They're aware of the solution of fixing it at source, but they've done the cost calculation. And for that, that handful of issues, it's actually cheaper to risk manage it operationally. But they've done the calculations. They know how to fix it. They just know that this way is cheaper. We don't do that. We do everything that way, regardless of the cost. And if you think about it, there's some fundamental flaws about this. So first of all, imagine you produce more and more aircraft. Well, you're going to need more and more workshops. You're going to need more and more workers. You're going to need more and more technology. And you're going to be spending more and more on that technology. And you're going to require more and more people. And you're going to create a skills gap. And you're still never quite going to keep up. Like, keeping up is the best. But if you think about it, if you reduce the risk of, let's use some big numbers to simplify. If you reduce the risk of a plane crashing from, say, 25% to 1% per year, by tightening the bolts, that's a significant risk reduction. But if you have, that's per flight, but if you have 100 flights, that 1% is still going to result in an incident every year. So you're keeping the percentage likelihood of an incident per flight down, but the actual, as the number of flights, number of aircraft increases, the likelihood of an event happening is still going up. And we know the way our organizations are very Swiss cheese-like. When you have an incident, it's a big one. So your actual likelihood of a breach does still increase, even if you keep the risk percentage per system, per transaction, per interaction the same. As you grow, the likelihood of something happening is still growing. And that is completely unsustainable and the direct opposite of how every other industry does it. And why we're not doing this is beyond me. It's rocket science to people in cybersecurity, yet it's been standard practice for over 50 years in other industries. And I think that's really something we need to think about and should shape our approach.